All right, let's finally wrap our heads around factoring. When we're factoring, we only care about two of these numbers. The one on the end, and you include this plus symbol, right? You have to include it, and the one in front of the middle variable. For now, we can ignore this if there's no number there. We can do a separate video when there is a number there, but for now, we can ignore this. So we need to find a pair of numbers that multiply to the one on the end, or multiply to 7 and add to the one in the middle. A pair of numbers, and you always are going to represent your pair of numbers in two parentheses where you're going to start with your variable. In this case, it's a b, right? We're working with a b. And now we need to ask ourselves, what two numbers multiply to 7 and add to 8? This one is quite easy because there's really only one way to multiply to 7. It's 7 and 1. So it's a positive 7 and a positive 1 that multiply to 7. And this 7 and this 1, they also add to 8. So this would be your factored version. Now, in this one, it's important to recognize that whenever there's no number in front of a variable, we can assume there's a 1 there, right? 1m is the same as m. So we need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 90 and add to positive 1, right? And our answer is always, or our factored version is always going to be two parentheses. The variable will be at the beginning of both parentheses. But what I'm noticing here is we need to multiply to get a negative number. And there's really only one way to do that, with a positive and a negative, right? Two positives don't multiply to a negative, and two negatives don't multiply to a negative. So it has to be one negative and one positive. So now I'm thinking to myself, what are the pairs that multiply to 10? To 90. And I gave the answer. I noticed that 10 and 9 multiply, right? 10 times 9 equals 90. But one of those needs to be negative, and one of those needs to be positive. In order for them to add to positive 1, we need to make the 10 positive and the 9 negative, right? These two, they multiply to our 90, and they also add to our 1. So this is your factored version. Let's do one more here. Okay, this one's a little trickier because there's lots of ways to multiply to 24. But ultimately, we need to find two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to a positive 2. All right, so we know our answer is going to be represented in two parentheses, our factored version. We know our variable here is an m. Once again, I see that we're multiplying to a negative number. The only way to multiply to a negative number is with a positive and a negative. One way I like to do it is to think, if we want to multiply to 24, what are some of the pairs we can have, right? We can have 12 and 2, 24 and 1. We could have 6 and 4, maybe 8 and 3. Now, which one of these pairs could end up adding to a positive 2 if one of our numbers is going to be negative and one of our numbers is going to be positive? Well, they better be two apart from each other. So I noticed the 6 and 4. Which one has to be positive? The 6, because if we add a positive 6 and a negative 4, you get a positive 2. If the symbols were flipped, right, if the 6 was on the right and the 4 was on the left, we would end up with a negative 2. So this is your factored version.